air in the dining room was thick with unspoken words as I sat at the long, polished oak table, staring at the half-eaten roast chicken. The aroma of rosemary and garlic wafted through the air, a stark contrast to the heavy weight settled in my chest. My father's voice boomed like thunder as he initiated yet another one of his infamous family dinners where the only thing served alongside the food was tension. "Everyone gather, I have something to share." My stomach twisted. I knew that tone too well. It always hinted at trouble. My mother's eyes flicked to me, her expression a mix of concern and determination. "Do you think it's about the inheritance?" she whispered, leaning closer, her breath warm and sweet like the dessert she had prepared. "I thought we settled that. I was supposed to be the favored one," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper, my heart hammering in my chest. I glanced down the table at my brother, who was shoving his face with potatoes, completely unfazed by the brewing storm. The contrast between us was painful. He had always been the favored child, the golden boy. My sister sat beside him, twirling her hair around her finger, looking at her phone as if the world beyond that screen held more importance than our family drama unfolding in real time. "Amelia, put your phone away," she snapped, but I merely shot her a pointed look. "I'm not the one ignoring reality," I shot back, feeling the frustration boil beneath my skin. "Reality. You're the one who keeps imagining you are more important than the rest of us," she scoffed, her face flushed with the heat of our escalating argument. "It is not my fault that you are not as charming, Amelia. Maybe if you tried harder." "Enough." My father's voice was like a sharp crack of lightning cutting through the air. He leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his thinning hair, a sign that this was serious. I could see the tension lines etched on his forehead. "What I have to say will change everything." I held my breath, waiting for the bomb to drop. My heart raced as I felt the weight of my mother's gaze, the fear of uncertainty settling heavy in my stomach. She looked just as anxious as I felt, like we were both standing on the edge of a cliff, waiting for the push. "Your grandfather left a letter for all of you. It contains a huge announcement about the inheritance." My grandfather's passing had been a whirlwind of emotions, but what I truly cared about was the inheritance that had been promised to my father and now filtered down to us as his children. I felt my chest tighten as I pictured the sprawling estate that belonged to our family, the shimmering pool, and the luxurious cars parked in the driveway. The family treasure trove I'd always been told would be mine, but a gnawing fear wrapped around my heart. What if it had changed? What does it say? I demanded, my curiosity piqued and my gut turned into knots. My father's mouth quirked with a hint of a smirk. "Well, it appears your grandfather wanted to do a little redistribution." I froze. Redistribution? What does that even mean? "You'll have to wait and see." His eyes narrowed, revealing an excitement that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. My mother shifted in her seat, her face pale as she processed his words. Grandfather I had known always seemed fair, but the implications of what redistribution could mean made my stomach churn. The tension at the table thickened until I could practically taste it, bitter and metallic. My brother leaned forward, uncharacteristically alert. "Is this some kind of joke?" he asked, his brow furrowed with confusion. "You can't just cut us off. We've built our lives around that inheritance." "Exactly," I added, my voice fierce. "What does he want from us? We are family." "Apparently he doesn't see it that way anymore," my father replied, his tone more sardonic than I had ever heard. "That's not fair." I couldn't hold back the frustration. What could he possibly want to change? We all deserve our share. "Oh, Amelia," my sister let out a scoff, the kind that cuts deep. "You think you deserve anything. You are not entitled to anything, especially not now that you have put him down whenever you could." I went pale, her words slicing through the conversation in a way that left me breathless. "You think this is my fault? Just remember, this is not just about you. Keep it down, all of you," my mother interjected, a plea to restore some order in the mess we had become. "Let your father finish." My father's eyes glinted mischievously, an expression that sent shivers down my spine. "Your grandfather has set up a trust based on what he thinks is deserved, and guess what? It appears some of you will be getting less than imagined while others gain if they prove worthy." The tension escalated like a flickering flame, each word fanning the inferno. "What does that even mean, prove worthy?" I cried out, the realization hitting me like a wave. "He cannot do this to us. We are his blood. You can protest all you want, but that letter is binding. He will review it every year. If you want your share, you must find a way to impress him." "Show him you are deserving," my father continued, his voice steady. "Do you even hear what you are saying?" I shook my head in disbelief. "This is the most ridiculous thing I have ever heard. And yet it is the reality. The time for entitlement is over, sister," my brother sneered, a smirk spreading across his face as he squirmed in delight at the unfolding chaos. "This is it. This is how we are going to be judged." My heart raced, the shadows of betrayal lurking deep within me, threatening to consume what was left of the family bonds I had cherished. I felt a rush of warmth in my cheeks, anger bubbling beneath the surface. "You mock this, but I promise you I will show him I am worthy, whatever it takes." The words erupted from my lips before my mind could catch up. Silence fell over the room like a thick blanket. The only sound was the ticking of the clock, echoing the turning point I had just announced. The atmosphere crackled with electricity, and I could feel the eyes of my family boring into me, their faces reflecting a mix of shock, disbelief, and perhaps a hint of fear. Are you serious? My sister's voice cracked, disbelief palpable in her tone. Do you actually think you stand a chance? Watch me, I whispered, heart racing with newfound purpose. And as I stared around the room, the weight of uncertainty and ambition pooling around me, I knew I had crossed a threshold. It was no longer just about inheritance. It was about power, worth, and the unseen battle beginning to unfold in our family. I rose from the table, the chairs scraping against the wooden floor, and walked toward the door, each step fueled by defiance and determination. Before slamming the door behind me, I shot a final glance at my family, their stunned expressions etched in my mind, and I felt something shift, a realization dawning. This was only the beginning of my journey. With my heart pounding in my ears, I whispered to myself, I will show you all what I am capable of. I stared at the family dining table, the polished oak surface gleaming under the chandelier's warm glow. The scent of roast chicken drifted through the air, filling the space with a welcoming aroma, but I could hardly appreciate it. My heart pounded in my chest as I sat among my parents, my brother, and my sister, each one wrapped in their own little world, and I felt so entirely disconnected from them. My mother's cheerful voice pierced through my thoughts. Dinner is ready, she called out, a smile plastered on her face as if everything was perfectly fine, but I knew otherwise. I tried to force a smile, but my stomach twisted in knots as I grabbed a plate, the clatter of cutlery somehow magnifying the tension. My brother laughed at a joke my father made, and I could almost feel the crackle of betrayal in the air between us. My fingers went pale as I gripped the edge of the table, watching my sister, who seemed supremely comfortable in her position as the favorite. She wore this designer dress that shimmered in the light, the kind of dress I could only dream about owning, a gentle reminder of how my parents favored her for the smallest things. You got an A in English, honey, we are so proud, my father said, ruffling her hair playfully, laughter bursting from them both, but I felt my heart sink. I had been the one to excel in school, the one to take on extra credit, yet here I sat unseen and unheard. I felt invisible, my achievement slipping further into the shadows compared to my sister's effortless charm. My mother turned to me, her smile faltering for just a moment as she noticed my tight expression. Amelia, sweetheart, how was your day? Her voice had this sweet, syrupy quality, but I could almost taste the bitterness under it. I inhaled deeply, forcing myself to respond. It was fine, thanks, I mumbled, picking at my food. I felt the weight of the words elongate like a rubber band, straining under the tension of unspoken truths. I wanted to scream at her, tell her how it felt to be cut off, dismissed, to be overshadowed by my sister's radiant light. Just fine, my brother chirped, his eyes glinting with that familiar mischief. Come on, you can do better than that. I shot him a glare, wishing desperately that he would just focus on his plate instead of poking at me. I have a report due next week, I shot back, attempting to sound confident, but my voice cracked, betraying my nerves. My father waved me off. The world will not end over a report, Amelia. Focus on the bigger picture, he replied, a tinge of impatience creeping into his tone. That was the problem, wasn't it? The bigger picture was always something I couldn't see. It felt like they demanded I look beyond what was right in front of me, a wall barricading my sense of belonging. My heart raced as I fought against the rising tide of tears. In that moment, the sound of silverware clinking seemed deafening, each note of their laughter hitting me like a slap across the face. I was so tired of being told to be stronger, to be better, while my sister was basking in the golden glow of favoritism. Do you need any help with that, sis? My sister chimed, a way too innocent smile plastered on her face. It slipped off my skin like water in the desert, leaving me feeling colder than before. No, I got it, I replied, my voice shaking. I can handle it. No one seemed to grasp the weight of the burden I carried. The inheritance battle loomed over our family like a thick fog, but all they talked about was trivial excitement. You know, I was thinking, my mother suggested, her bright eyes momentarily sparkling. Maybe we should all go on a family trip once this report is over. Oh, of course, a family trip, something delightful to distract us from the impending reality that would inevitably rip us apart. Who would want to go on a trip with you? I muttered under my breath, but my words didn't go unnoticed. My father turned sharply. What was that, Amelia? His tone was sharp, demanding an answer, twisting deep within me like a thorn. It felt as if the air had suddenly thickened, and I struggled to breathe, the anger simmering just beneath the surface. Nothing, I snapped, though my voice was far too shaky. My mother's face twisted, disappointment etched deeply in her features. No need for that tone, Amelia. We're simply trying to enjoy family time. My chest tightened like a vice as the hurt pooled in my gut. Did they really see family time as just some luxury to be flaunted? I wanted to scream, to tell them how betrayed I felt, how they chose my sister over me, over and over again. I remained silent, constricted by the weight of it all. Then, as if fueled by some unseen force, my brother leaned in closer, his voice dropping yet tinged with impossibly dark humor. Well, you could always just let it go. After all, Dad does love a good inheritance story, he chuckled, half joking, but I could see a glint of something more serious in his eyes. My mother glanced at my father, and like a well-rehearsed play, the tension shifted. We do need to talk about the inheritance, my father said, his voice suddenly grave and cold. The air crackled with electricity as I froze, my heart drumming angrily against my ribs. He had said it, the unspoken truth hanging heavily around us. The luxurious house, the expensive cars, the pile of cash that could suffocate me alive, it all had strings tied to it, and the whispers of resentment began to settle in the room. "We need to make sure the right decisions are made," my mother added, her eyes darting between the four of us, searching for something, maybe for someone to back her up, but I refused to bend. "What do you mean by that?" I asked, my voice trembling yet edged with defiance. "It doesn't matter, Amelia," my father snapped, rage flashing in his eyes. "Just accept what we decide. Some things are better left unmentioned." I felt my stomach twist at the dismissiveness in his words. "So you are choosing favorites again?" I accused, my voice stronger now, fueled by built-up resentment. Silence engulfed the room, a heavy, suffocating blanket of tension settling over us. My brother exchanged glances with my sister, their expressions unreadable. "You don't understand how hard it is to handle all of this," my father growled. "You have no idea what we have gone through." His words struck me like arrows, the father I had always revered now painted in shades of darkness. "Maybe you don't understand me," I yelled back, my voice cracking from the fury bubbling within me, and with that my mother's hand shot up, bringing the room into immediate quiet. "Enough, we will discuss the will later," she said sharply, end of discussion apparently. "I want everyone at the table to relax and enjoy this dinner." I felt like I was on a roller coaster barreling towards a drop, anticipation and fear colliding within. "I refuse to ignore this anymore," I declared, my hands trembling in a mix of fear and empowerment. I could feel my heart racing, pounding against my chest louder than anything else in the room. The clock ticked painfully loud, the seconds stretching painfully long. As the meal wore on, I could feel the air thick with unresolved feelings, the echoes of betrayal and ambition mingling in the background, just waiting to erupt. I caught my brother smirking at my sister as if they could both see the dominoes beginning to fall, and in that moment I realized I was done being the invisible sibling. I wasn't going to let this family, these expectations, or the upcoming battle over inheritance define me anymore. "I'll show them," I whispered under my breath as I fought to maintain my composure. The meal dragged on, and I could almost taste the bitterness of the unspoken grudges, simmering just below the surface, waiting for an opportunity to explode. Just as I thought I was losing myself to the chaos, my sister shot me a look, one that held far more than I had anticipated. It sparked a burning curiosity deep inside of me, a blend of suspicion and determination, and that look pushed me closer to the edge. I glanced around the table, each face a canvas of secrets and locked feelings, and as I settled into my resolve, I knew this drama was far from over. I was ready to fight for what belonged to me, for acknowledgement I had long been denied. And then, just like that, the sound of a phone buzzing shattered the tension, breaking the spell like glass hitting the floor. I turned, and my sister's expression shifted from victory to casual curiosity as she pulled out her phone, glancing at the screen. In that instant, I felt my breath hitch in my throat, a sense of dread coiling tight in the pit of my stomach. Something was off, and whatever she discovered would undoubtedly set the stage for yet another confrontation. My heart raced, bracing for what would come next as she read the message, her expression going blank, then morphing into something that both excited and terrified me. "I have to take this," she said, rising abruptly from the table, the chair scraping loudly against the floor as she walked away, leaving a charged silence in her wake. Questions tinged with concern filled the room, and I could feel the charged atmosphere transforming into something darker, like a storm brewing just beyond the horizon, ready to unleash its fury. I knew that whatever had been uncovered would change everything. My eyes followed her as she disappeared around the corner, a mix of dread and anticipation flooding through me. I could not shake the feeling that the moment she returned, everything would unravel and truth would finally emerge. Right before my eyes, the threads of our family dynamics were slowly unraveling, and I was prepared to reclaim my place in this messy game. Unbeknownst to them, I was ready to set my plan in motion. The battle for my family's attention, love, and ultimately what was rightfully mine was just beginning. I stood in the living room, my heart racing, feeling the weight of the air pressing down on me like a thick blanket. The walls felt like they were closing in, full of memories tinged with betrayal. It was just another family gathering, or at least it was supposed to be. My mother had insisted it was time for us to come together, but in reality it felt like a setup. The scent of my mother's famous lasagna wafted from the kitchen, warming the space, but I could not taste its richness nor enjoy the aroma. Each sound, the clinking of utensils, the laughter from my brother and sister as they reminisced, was another nail in my chest. My mother stood at the head of the dining table, a vision of domestic bliss, her apron stained from cooking. "Dinner is ready. You two come and get it while it's hot," she called out with just a hint of forced cheerfulness. My sister ungracefully plopped into a chair, hair perfectly styled, but her laughter rang hollow in my ears, and the way she smirked after catching my eye made my stomach churn. "You should take a seat too," my father said as he flicked a glance at me while reaching for the lasagna, his tone dismissive. "It's about time you joined us instead of sulking." The twist of sulking hung in the air, and I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks. "I am not sulking," I snapped back, bracing myself against the table, my hands shaking slightly. The The salad bowl, filled to the brim with vibrant greens and hearty cherry tomatoes, felt like miles away, and for a moment I considered the anger bubbling inside me instead of hunger. I just don't feel like pretending everything is okay anymore. I could hear my brother snicker, and it only fueled my fire. "Come on, Amelia," my sister said, her voice dripping with condescension. "It's just dinner, no need to act so dramatic." She leaned back, her arms crossed, a smug smile plastered on her face while I felt like I was standing in the spotlight with everyone teasing me. "It wouldn't be a family dinner without your wonderful attitude," I shot back, my voice cracking slightly despite my effort to appear steady. I could see the tension flaring between us like static electricity. It was just waiting for the right moment to explode. "Why do you always have to make everything about you? Why don't you try being a little more positive instead of bitter?" she quickly retorted, her perfectly manicured fingers tapping against the table. How had it come to this? Why were we always at each other's throats? I risked a glance at my mother. Her face was a blend of disappointment and weariness. I could almost see the thoughts swirling in her head, almost pitying. I took a breath. "It's unfair. You all act like you're perfect. Did you forget what happened?" Silence plastered the room, and suddenly I felt naked, exposed. The anticipatory hum of background chatter disappeared. I looked around, the brightness of the overhead lights almost too sharp. Everyone seemed to pause, undoubtedly recalling the events that had led to this rift. My brother finally spoke up, his demeanor shifting, irritation etched in his brow. "Look, we all know that Dad chose you for the trust fund, not me. You got that lavish birthday present 2 years ago while I was sitting in the shadows. It's not like we didn't notice." His voice was gruff, resentment seeping through. "Mom and Dad had their reasons," my sister interjected defensively, but I could see the storm brewing in my brother's eyes. "What do you want me to do about it?" I didn't ask for any of this. The truth hit me like a tidal wave. My parents had always favored me. I never asked for it, I never wanted it. And here I was, defending something I never even fought for. "You chose them over us." My words came out sharper than intended, and I could feel my throat tightening, a knot twisting itself inside. "You don't get to act like Saint Amelia while I am here standing in the cold." Mom's grip tightened on the edge of the counter, knuckles white, as my father's jaw tightened further in disbelief. "This is ridiculous," he said, shifting the conversation. "Your mother and I did what we thought was best. We wanted to set you on a better path." "A better path," my brother echoed, incredulous. "What about my path? What about the sacrifices I made, the hours I worked to pay for my own college while she had everything handed to her? What's fair about that?" The rage in his voice felt palpable. I wanted to scream back, yet my heart pounded too hard in my chest, choking me. "I didn't ask for any of this. Stop blaming me. Stop making me the villain." My voice rose a notch, trembling at the edges as I fought to keep tears at bay. My mother's eyes softened, but her frown deepened. "It should have been all of us together, not just you," I said quietly, desperate for them to really hear me. The tension was thickening, and in that moment it felt like our entire family foundation was quaking beneath us. "Amelia," my mother finally said, her voice low and strained, "you know how much we care about you." But I couldn't bear it any longer. I stood up abruptly, the chair scraping against the wooden floor, piercing through the thick silence. "Caring isn't enough if you cannot be honest with each other. Your love is not unconditional." Tears welled up in my eyes, blurring my vision. I marched toward the door, feeling the weight of their stares burning into my back. "Where do you think you're going?" my father's voice thundered, but I pushed through it, refusing to answer. My chest tightened, and as I reached the entrance, I paused just long enough to turn back, my heart pounding in my ears like thunder. "You'll regret this," I finally spat, feeling empowered and broken all at once. Then I slammed the door behind me, a deafening sound echoing through the emptiness, leaving everything unresolved, the taste of family betrayal sharp on my tongue. My father's voice was swallowed by the darkness as I walked away, footsteps heavy, heart racing. I knew this fight wasn't over. It had only just begun, and the real battle waited for one more shocking revelation that was yet to be uncovered. The air inside the dining room was thick with tension, my stomach a churning knot as I sat across from my parents at the grand oak table. The dim lighting cast deep shadows on their faces, highlighting the furrows in my mother's brow and the clenched jaw of my father. It felt like the walls were closing in, suffocating me in the weight of the accusations that hung unspoken in the air. I could smell the remnants of the lavish dinner we had shared, roasted chicken, buttery mashed potatoes, and the distinct aroma of gravy that clung to the edges of the table. But all of that was meaningless now. It felt like the scent of betrayal. "Amelia, we need to talk," my mother said, her voice steady but laced with an edge that made my heart race. I could see her hands trembling slightly as they rested on the table, and I felt a flicker of hope that maybe she would finally understand. Maybe she would finally see how unjust the situation was. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves, the wood grain of the table cool beneath my palms. "What is there to talk about, Mother? You made your choice clear enough." I kept my voice firm despite the tightness in my chest. How could I not feel betrayed? I had spent years believing that this family would always have my back, yet here I was, cast aside like I was nothing. My gaze shifted to my father, who leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, the creases around his mouth deepening as he watched the exchange like a hawk. My mother sighed, that familiar look of frustration passing over her features. This isn't easy for any of us, Amelia. Your father and I had our reasons. You know how complicated the inheritance situation is, she replied, her words an echo of the heavy tension in the room. We didn't choose to favor your brother, it's just that, I interrupted, feeling a surge of anger. You didn't choose to favor him, he gets everything handed to him on a silver platter. A brand new car for his high school graduation, $20,000 for his first apartment, and a promise of future help whenever he needs it. Meanwhile, I'm barely scraping by and trying to stand on my own 2 feet. My voice cracked and I swallowed hard, forcing the tears that threatened to spill back down. It was infuriating. You chose him over me. The moment you cut me off, you chose him. The color drained from my mother's face and she opened her mouth as though to defend herself, but the words never came. My father's expression hardened and I could feel the tension shift in the room. It was like a storm raging just beneath the surface. Amelia, he finally said, his voice deep and commanding, you need to understand that things aren't always black and white. There are responsibilities you don't see. Responsibilities, or just your favoritism. My voice rose, filled with a mixture of pain and determination. You think I don't see how you treat me like I'm the outcast? I worked hard for everything I have. I didn't ask to be treated like a second-class citizen in my own family. The bitterness in my words clung to the air like the dust motes caught in the fading light. Your brother is simply in a position where he needs more support, my father insisted, his fingers drumming against the polished wood of the table, which only frustrated me more. He has a family to support now, Amelia. You are an adult. You're supposed to be independent. The word independent stung like a slap in the face. I tried to suppress the flood of hurt that washed over me, but it was impossible as I caught a glimpse of my mother's disappointment etched in her eyes. Did they really think I wanted to be independent while they constantly undermined me? Independence doesn't mean cutting me off from any support, I shot back, my voice trembling as I struggled to maintain composure. It's not that simple, my mother finally exploded, her voice rattling me to the bone. You are making this into a bigger issue than it really is. She slammed her palm against the table, rattling the silverware and making the chandelier sway above us. The sound echoed through the room, heightening the sense of drama brewing just underneath the surface. I blinked, feeling the sting of tears behind my eyes. They were zapping my strength with every passing moment. I have never been more clear about how I feel, I said softly, my voice wavering. I feel cast aside, cut off, and treated as if my accomplishments do not matter. My hands shook, revealing just how raw I felt. There was silence, a heavy pause clinging in the air as though the entire room held its breath. It felt surreal, a heavy fog of unease wrapping its tendrils around us, seeping into every crack in our family foundation. Finally, my father uncrossed his arms, leaning forward, his brow furrowed as if he were searching for the right words. Amelia, listen, he said, his voice losing its authoritative edge. This is about what's best for the family. Is it, I shot back, or is it about protecting your precious image? The bitterness was serrated now, cutting deep into the very fabric of our family ties. I felt bold, daring to challenge them both as I sat there, reckoning with the unfairness etched into my very existence. Before they could respond, I noticed movement from the corner of my eye. My brother had just walked in, a smirk plastered across his face, no doubt reveling in the chaos of our tense conversation. What's going on in here? Did I miss the family showdown? He laughed, completely disinterested in the storm brewing just a few feet away. My heart sank as I looked at him, the favored child, the one who always got to bask in our parents' spotlight. You missed nothing, just a reminder that I'm not welcome in this family, I shot back, bitterness dripping from every word. I stood abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor, creating a sound that echoed through the silence like a bell tolling in the night. I can't do this anymore. Amelia, wait, my mother called out, but the sound was distant, fading as I opened the door and stepped into the hallway. My chest tightened with each step down the corridor, my mind racing with thoughts of revenge. I would find a way to reclaim my sense of self, my worth, and their mocking laughter wouldn't silence me anymore. As I reached the front door, I hesitated, my hand hovering over the doorknob. Did they know my truth? Did they understand the fire that now burned within me? Just as I was about to turn the knob, a voice pierced through, calling me back one last time. You really think this is over? My father's voice was low, filled with an ominous hint that left me chilled. Instead of answering, I slammed the door behind me, a finality echoing through the house. I stood on the porch, heart racing, feeling the weight of everything unraveling. The world felt fairer outside, away from the chains of betrayal. I could hear the muffled voices inside, rising in volume, but I turned my back and stepped into the night, knowing this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I stood there, clutching the doorframe as my heart raced, overwhelmed by the chaotic blend of emotions swirling inside me. The scent of my mother's famous pot roast wafted through the air, a bittersweet reminder of family gatherings long gone. The dining room table sparkled with its familiar elegance, though today it felt suffocating, a prison of my own making. My brother was leaning against the wall, his arms crossed, an amused smirk curving on his lips as he watched my sister wipe away the remnants of her makeup in the mirror. I felt my hands trembling, the memory of my last family meeting still fresh. 3 letters and none of them good. I had to do something, and today was the day. Are you two coming to dinner or what? Mother called from the kitchen, her voice stern yet laced with the hint of an invitation. My brother exchanged a knowing look with my sister, her eyes rolling as she lowered her makeup brush. "Yeah, Mom, we're coming," he shot back, his tone teasing as he pushed away from the wall. The tension hung thick in the air, and I could feel it settling on my shoulders like a heavy blanket. As we shuffled into the dining room, the weight of anticipation clung to me tighter than ever. The dim lighting cast shadows across my mother's face, highlighting her furrowed brow. She clearly had no idea what was about to unfold. My sister flicked her hair over her shoulder, taking a seat as if she owned the place, her usual smugness in full effect. My brother dropped into his chair, a wide grin plastered across his face as if he had been granted a secret nobody else knew. "Looks delicious, Mom," my brother said, reaching for a piece of roast before it had even been served. I felt my stomach churn. It was as if they were completely unaware of what had happened just days before, when Father had read that will which ripped our family apart. "Thank you, but remember, this is a family dinner," my mother said, setting the buffet filled with my childhood favorites before us. "Let's try to keep this civil." "Civil," I muttered under my breath, my heart pounding. They were the ones who had made it a battlefield after all, but I could not let them see me falter. "How are we supposed to be civil after Father chose you both over me?" I dropped the bombshell without hesitation, watching their expressions morph from casual indifference to shock. "What are you talking about?" my sister shrieked, her fork clattering against the plate as she set it down hard. "You're being ridiculous." "Ridiculous? You think any of this is ridiculous?" I leaned forward, my voice steady but low, a simmering rage boiling beneath the surface. "Father put $100,000 in trust for you two while I got, what was it?" I could feel the tension seeping through my fingertips as I gripped the edge of the table. "Ah yes, the family parlor's antique lamp." Such a generous gift. My mother's face paled, and I could see her fists clench beneath the table, betraying her anger. "Amelia, enough with these theatrics, you're acting like a child." "Child," I practically spat the word, my voice cracking with the strain of holding back tears. "You chose them over me, and now you want me to just accept it. I have every right to be furious. You should be grateful," my mother shot back, her tone sharp. "Your father made the right decision. You've always chosen outsider friends over family, while your brother and sister have stayed by our side. You're the one who's been distant, not us." I took a deep breath, feeling the frustration bubbling within me. "You are using this as an excuse to dismiss me entirely. I have never felt so betrayed in my life." My voice rose with each word, simmering with all the rage I had bottled up since that fateful day. "Betrayed?" my brother chimed in, his tone dismissive. "If anything, we should feel betrayed by you. You never thought about our feelings when you kept pushing away. You think you're the only one in pain here." "I never pushed away. I tried to be a part of this family, but it seems that no matter how hard I tried, you all chose each other over me," I countered, fighting the tightness in my throat. "This isn't just about money, it's about love. Your love is conditional. You think you can just kick me out and steal everything from me?" "Amelia, this isn't a competition," my mother asserted firmly, though her calm demeanor felt thin, almost fragile. "Your father just wanted to make sure his children were provided for. There's nothing wrong with that." Tears welled up in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. The family parlor felt like it was shrinking as the stifling air surrounded me. "It is wrong when the love you preach about only extends to those who are seen as perfect children. You think you are so much better than me because of the money connected to your name." "Stop playing the victim," my sister said sharply. "You act like we have all the advantages, but we have our struggles too. Maybe if you hadn't taken off for Lowe's Angels and let us handle things here, you wouldn't have been cut off." "Cut off? You think I was cut off? I always came home. I cared." My voice elevated, echoing off the walls in that room that had once felt secure and warm, now turned hostile. "Look at you, you bask in your favored status while pretending I don't exist." I noticed my brother glance at my sister, his expression signaling something unspoken between them. "What else are you keeping from me?" Their faces tightened. "You wouldn't understand," my sister said, her tone full of disdain. "You never took the time to ask. Did you ever think maybe I wasn't given a chance? Maybe the real secret is what you two have been whispering about behind my back." My heart raced, the uncertainty palpable. "Tell me, why do you act like I'm not part of this family anymore?" "That's not true," my brother hesitated, but his voice faltered. "It's more complicated than you think. It wasn't just Dad's decision." "Then what?" I demanded, rising from my seat. "If this family is built on secrets, then what is left for me? I have a right to know everything." "Why don't you dig around, Amelia the outsider?" my sister sneered. "You might be surprised what you find. Maybe it'll shed some light on why you were left out." Everyone went suddenly quiet, the words hanging in the air thick like fog. My family exchanged uneasy glances, the mocking bravado fading as the weight of my sister's statement settled between us. I could hardly breathe, anticipation tightening around my throat. What could she possibly mean by that? I felt a cold chill run down my spine as I caught something in my brother's expression, a flicker of guilt that made my heart sink further. "What are you really hiding from me?" I pushed, desperate, looking at them one by one, trying to catch anyone in a moment of weakness. A small, cold smile spread across my sister's face and my stomach dropped. "Maybe you should ask your grandmother," my sister said, her voice suddenly light, almost taunting. "It's all there, buried in the past. Trust me, the truth is darker than you think." Just as those words left her mouth, the door flew open and my grandfather stepped in, his face twisted with a mix of surprise and anger. My heart dropped. I had not even noticed how tense the atmosphere had grown, and yet he could sense it instantly, a commanding presence that silenced the room even more. What is going on here? Frozen mid-confrontation, the atmosphere shifted once again as we all turned our heads toward a man who had lived long enough to gather secrets of his own. I could see the tension wrapped around him like a shroud, secrets buried in family bonds entangled in a plot I could not yet fully grasp. My mind raced, and I had an annoying feeling that whatever was left unsaid was going to change everything we thought we knew. I swallowed hard, my heart pounding as I prepared to draw the final curtain on our family ties. I stood in the dimly lit dining room, the scent of roasted chicken mingling with the bitter taste of betrayal in the air. The table was set with my mother's finest china, a dazzling display that always managed to catch the light in ways that felt too extravagant for our small home in Riverside Valley. As I looked around, I saw my brother and sister seated across from each other, both wearing cryptic smiles that didn't reach their eyes. My father sat at the head of the table, his expression stern, eyes flickering towards the door as if anticipating someone else to join us. I could feel my heart racing, a drum echoing the unease that had settled in my chest. Perfect timing, as always, my sister remarked, her voice laced with sarcasm as she glanced at the clock. She was clad in a designer dress, an obvious flaunt of our parents' favoritism towards her, and I felt a pang of jealousy mixed with that feeling of being utterly inadequate. My eyes darted toward my brother, who was busy scrolling through his phone, barely acknowledging the celebratory mood. "It's just dinner, not a fashion show," my brother muttered, not looking up, his tone flat. I yearned for a supportive environment, but instead there was a thick layer of tension, making it hard to breathe. Suddenly the door creaked open and I felt a shiver trickle down my spine. My grandfather entered, his presence instantly dominating the room. He had this aura of authority and I felt small as he made his way to the table. I could see why my father idolized him, a man who had built his empire from the ground up, a legacy that was meant to be passed down, but it was never clear to me where I stood in that legacy. "Late," my father said, a hint of irritation creeping into his voice. "Traffic is an inconvenience for the weak," my grandfather replied sharply, a glimmer of pride visible in his hardened gaze. "Let's eat." As we began to serve the meal, I couldn't shake the feeling of impending doom. The satisfaction from the spices of the chicken mixed with my gnawing worry. What was this dinner even about? I had been so lost in my thoughts, yearning to speak up when my mother finally broke the uneasy silence. "We have important news," she announced, her hands trembling slightly as she clutched the table edge. I could tell she was nervous. My father shot her a shocked glance, clearly unaware of what she was about to reveal. "What type of news?" my brother asked, leaning back in his chair with a skeptical expression. "News regarding the estate," my mother continued, an edge creeping into her voice. "After your grandfather's last visit, we have made some decisions." I felt my stomach flip at the mention of the estate. Grandfather's estate, the sprawling property in the heart of Riverside Valley, had always felt less like a home and more like a looming shadow over our family. I could feel my palms sweating as I awaited the revelation. "We have decided to divide the estate," my mother said, her voice now trembling, "and all of you will have a say in what happens next." I blinked, my mind racing. Inheritance was never a light topic in our family. My grandfather had always favored my brother, while my sister had always been his little star. And me, I was the least favorite, the one who always seemed to be left out, the one they took lightly. "Why should we even bother having a vote?" my brother scoffed, dropping his fork with a clang. "It is obvious whose side he is on. You want him to pass the estate to you too while I sit back and watch, right?" "That is not fair," I exclaimed, feeling a fire ignite within me. "You have always been favored, while I am just invisible to all of you. Why does it always have to be about what you want, brother?" My sister rolled her eyes. "If you really cared, you would have found a way to show it by now, Amelia. You sit there moaning about favoritism while you do nothing to prove you deserve a stake in anything." Her words stung like knives, and I could feel tears welling up, but I refused to let them fall. "Enough," my grandfather barked, slamming his hand on the table. The clatter of silverware rang loudly as the atmosphere shifted into a more ominous tone. "Amelia may have been overlooked, but we're not here to settle petty grievances. You all need to start thinking practically. The estate is worth millions, $5 million to be exact. Do you understand what that means? To squander it out of brotherly rivalry is foolishness." The words hung heavy in the air. My throat tightened. $5 million, that's when things clicked. This wasn't just about family anymore. It was about power, money, and the inevitable betrayal that lurked behind all our interactions. "You are right, grandfather," my mother said softly, a small frown on her face. There was a nervous tremor in her voice, like she was caught between wanting to appease her father and protecting her children. "We should focus on what's best for our family." "Of course," my brother chimed in, "what's best for you, right?" His voice was bitter, and I could feel the divide deepening. In this moment, I realized that this was not merely a family dinner but a battlefield. It was money against loyalty, ambition against love. My father shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Let's just have a civilized discussion." "How can we have a civilized discussion when you all have clearly chosen your favorites?" I shot back, my voice rising, filled with a mixture of rage and despair. "You all act as if you care, but I know better." There was a sharp intake of breath from my sister, and the room went silent for a moment. I could see the tension in my father's face, the way his jaw clenched as my grandfather's gaze hardened. "You think this is a joke? You think our legacy is a game?" my grandfather seethed, his hands shaking with suppressed anger. "No, but it seems that's how you all treat me," I spat back, my hands trembling. "It is always sibling rivalry this, favoritism that. When do I get to have a say in anything?" And then I had an idea, one that fueled my heart with determination. If this is how they chose to play, if they wanted to belittle me and keep me in the shadows, then I would not play the victim any longer. I'd show them just how powerful I could be, even if it meant tearing our family apart. "I am going to reclaim my place," I whispered fiercely to myself, just loud enough to be heard. "This will no longer be about your favoritism. I will find a way to turn the tables." As I squared my shoulders, my eyes flicked towards my brother and sister, both staring back wide-eyed as if they were just beginning to understand the shift in the atmosphere. The air was thick with unresolved conflict, overshadowed by unspoken truths waiting to erupt, like a volcano just on the edge of an explosive eruption. Suddenly, my mother stood up, shaking her head in disbelief. "This is madness. If we cannot even discuss this calmly, what is the purpose of being a family?" But the reality was, I felt more alone than ever. A weary silence descended upon the table. I had stepped into dangerous territory, but I could not back down now. I was done being the overlooked daughter, the forgotten sibling. As the flames of revenge slowly ignited within me, I felt a sense of empowerment that I never believed I could possess. Just as I was about to say something more, I heard the unmistakable sound of a slamming door echoing from the hallway behind me. All of us froze, looks of confusion etched on our faces. What just happened? Was it the end of our family meeting, or the beginning of an unexpected storm that would tear us apart for good? I could feel my heart pounding fiercely in my chest, and for a fleeting moment, I felt both terrified and exhilarated by the chaos that was about to unfold.